My sister made our baby cousin cry at his birthday by saying his mom didn't love him, so her boyfriend dumped her on the spot. She then spent a year destroying our lives through identity theft and cyber stalking. My older sister Veronica thought she was the most honest person to ever walk the earth. At the dinner table, she would start talking about who gained and lost weight and what she thought of everyone else's general appearance. None of us would even join in. And if we ever criticized, she'd say that she's just being real. Another time, she told me that my skin looked more disgusting than a cockroach being chewed up by a human. I just rolled my eyes. It's not like it was anything new, and the family was used to her BS by now. TBH, I was happy to stop inviting her to all future family functions, but my aunt insisted on inviting her, promising that one day she'd grow out of it. Boy, was she wrong. For our baby cousin's birthday one year, she texted into the family group chat asking if she could introduce us to her boyfriend, Jake, for the first time. Since Veronica was so horrible, I assumed he would be the same. I was down to straight up reject her request, but everyone replied before I could, and with my family being so welcoming, they of course said yes. SMH. He seemed nice at first, the type of guy to say hi to the pet dog before greeting anyone else, to hold open every door for you, but I never stopped being suspicious. The birthday boy, Marky, was adorable. He was dressed in this little blue onesie that had balloon designs all over it, and he didn't cry once, he just wanted a hug and to play peekaboo. Our whole family showed up for it. My uncles, my loud aunts, my divorced parents, everyone, all for Marky. It was held in one of those kids' party places that have everything. Arcade, bowling, laser tag, ball pit, the works. But somehow, Veronica had managed to sneak in alcohol. We were all sitting eating pizza that tasted like plastic when I noticed she was inebriated. Actually, all the adults noticed, because not only could you smell it on her breath, but she was speaking like she knew everything about how the world worked. Jake sat beside her in the tiny orange chair as she raved about what a genuine person she is, and explained why our cousin was wasting her time in community college. Literally the definition of tooting your own horn. I practically leaped for joy when the birthday cake came around, because it meant Veronica finally shutted the F up LOL, or so I thought. Everyone was gathered round singing happy birthday while 5-year-old Marky clapped his little hands. My aunt brought out this adorable dinosaur cake she picked up from the grocery store. As soon as we were done singing, Veronica stood up to make a toast. Well, kinda. Oh my gosh, you can't even make him a homemade cake. Do you even love him? Her words were slurred, and she gestured with her red Solo cup. Plus, these decorations look like you raided the dollar store clearance bin. If you're going to have kids, at least put in some effort. The other parents froze. Some kids stopped eating their pizza mid-bite. My aunt's face went red. Veronica kept going. I mean, I'm just being honest here. Pinterest exists for a reason. This is just sad. Suddenly, she was interrupted by the sound of Marky bursting into tears. It was that heartbroken wail kids do when their world falls apart. Auntie Veronica says mommy's cake is bad, he sobbed. Mommy, why didn't you try? Jake stood up so fast his chair tipped over. Veronica, pass me my stuff. We're done here. She laughed, still swaying. What? No way. I haven't even had cake yet. There's no we anymore. He interrupted and turned to face her directly. I just watched you destroy a 5-year-old's birthday party. What kind of person does that? My uncle actually whispered wow from across the room. My cousin pulled out her phone. Veronica's jaw dropped. Babe, come on. I was just trying to help. Kids need to learn about standards. Standards? Jake's voice cracked. He's 5. He thinks his mom hung the moon, and you just told him she doesn't love him enough. The whole room watched like it was a movie. My aunt was still trying to calm down Marky, whose dinosaur shirt was soaked with tears. You're seriously breaking up with me? Here? Over this? Veronica's voice pitched higher. Jake walked over to my aunt and handed her a $500 bill. For the party. I'm sorry we ruined it. Then he turned back to Veronica. Find your own ride home, and delete my number. He headed for the exit. Veronica stood frozen for maybe 3 seconds before reality hit. She grabbed her purse and ran after him, heels clicking on the arcade floor, yelling something about overreacting. Dad muttered, good for him. Marky finally stopped crying long enough to ask, is the mean lady gone? She was, and we never saw her again. Until a week later, that is. Because that's when my aunt got a knock at the door. It wasn't Veronica, it was CPS. Someone had called in an anonymous report about alcohol being served to minors at a child's birthday party and neglectful parenting. The CPS lady showed up at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. My aunt called me crying, barely able to get the words out. She said this woman in a gray suit was asking all these questions about the party. Did she serve alcohol to children? Were there proper safety measures in place? Was the venue appropriately supervised? The investigator had a clipboard and everything, taking notes in neat handwriting. My aunt kept explaining it was Veronica who brought the alcohol. Nobody even knew she had it until she was already hammered. She showed the investigator the party place receipt, proving it was an alcohol-free venue. But the investigator just kept writing stuff down, her expression neutral and professional. She wanted names of everyone who attended, phone numbers too, email addresses if possible. My aunt had to give them, pulling up the party invitation list on her phone with shaking hands. The lady said she'd be contacting people to verify the story. I got my call 2 days later while I was at work. The investigator asked me to describe what happened at the party. I told her everything, how Veronica snuck in the booze in her purse, how she made Marky cry on his birthday, how Jake dumped her right there in front of everyone. The investigator asked if my aunt was supervising properly. I said of course she was. She was constantly checking on all the kids, making sure everyone was safe and having fun. She asked if there were any other concerning behaviors. I said no. My aunt was a wonderful mother. She thanked me and hung up, but that wasn't the end of it. Not even close. My aunt had to do 3 more home visits. They checked her fridge to see if she kept alcohol where Marky could reach it. They looked at Marky's room, checking for safety hazards. They interviewed him without her present, which terrified her. He kept asking if he was in trouble for crying at his party. It broke my aunt's heart. She told me he started having nightmares about the mean lady coming back. She had to take parenting classes too. Every Saturday for 6 weeks, driving 45 minutes each way. Missing them meant risking losing Marky. She had to pay for them herself. $50 per class, plus gas money. All because of that anonymous tip. We all knew it was Veronica. Who else would know those specific details about the party? Who else would be that petty and vindictive? But we couldn't prove it. The investigator wouldn't tell us who made the report, privacy laws or whatever. My cousin started a group text without Veronica to keep everyone updated. We shared screenshots of the crazy texts Veronica was sending to different family members, alternating between playing victim and making threats. That's when Jake reached out to me on Facebook. He sent me this long message apologizing for everything. He felt responsible for bringing Veronica into our lives. He said she'd been texting him non-stop from different numbers. First she was begging him to take her back, sending long paragraphs about how she'd change. Then she started claiming she was pregnant. He knew she was lying because because they'd always been careful. Plus, the timeline didn't add up. She was claiming to be 3 months along when they'd only been dating for 2. But she kept sending him ultrasound photos she found online. He reverse searched one and found it on a pregnancy blog from 2015. He blocked every new number, but she kept making more. She even created fake social media profiles to message him. He was thinking about changing his phone entirely and possibly getting a restraining order. I thanked him for the apology and told him it wasn't his fault. He seemed like a good guy who got mixed up with the wrong person. We all make mistakes like that. He asked if he could help with the CPS thing. Maybe write a statement about what really happened? I said I'd let him know if we needed anything. That's when things got really weird. My cousin Emma started getting weird messages on Instagram from her own account, but she wasn't sending them. Someone had created a fake profile using her photos and was messaging all her friends saying nasty stuff about other family members. The fake Emma was telling people that our grandma was senile and shouldn't be trusted with money, that my uncle Gary was cheating on his wife, that my other cousin was failing out of college because of substances. Emma spent hours trying to get Instagram to take down the fake account. She reported it like 20 times. Nothing happened. Meanwhile, her actual friends were confused and some stopped talking to her, thinking she'd gone crazy. She had to individually message everyone explaining it wasn't really her. Some believed her right away, but others remained skeptical, especially the ones who'd already been hurt by the cruel messages. Then my uncle Richard found a fake Facebook profile in his name. This one was posting in local community groups, starting arguments about politics and religion, making racist comments on news articles. His real coworker saw it and HR called him in for a meeting. He had to prove it wasn't actually him posting that garbage. The meeting lasted 2 hours, with Richard having to show his actual Facebook login history and explain why someone would impersonate him online. We figured out pretty quick this was Veronica's doing. The fake accounts all used photos from family events she'd attended. Some were pictures only she would have, like ones she took on her phone. The angles were specific, the moments candid, definitely not photos anyone else would have access to. But again, we couldn't prove anything. The accounts were made from random email addresses. Facebook and Instagram didn't care about our reports. The worst one was when she made a fake profile for my mom. She used it to comment on all of my mom's actual friends' posts, saying their kids were ugly or their cooking looked disgusting. My mom lost 3 friendships over it before she even knew what was happening. One lady blocked her everywhere and wouldn't listen when mom tried to explain at the grocery store. Mom came home from that shopping trip in tears. Her ice cream melted because she'd sat in the parking lot crying for 20 minutes. My dad started documenting everything. He made a spreadsheet with dates, times, and screenshots. He bought a printer specifically for this purpose, saying we needed physical copies of everything. He said we might need it later for legal stuff, but lawyers are expensive and nobody wanted to spend thousands of dollars on this family drama. Then Veronica showed up at Marky's daycare. My aunt got the call while she was at work. The daycare director said a woman claiming to be Marky's aunt tried to pick him up. She had his full name, birth date, even knew about his dinosaur backpack, and that he was allergic to peanuts. But the staff recognized her from the description my aunt had given after the birthday party incident. They kept Marky inside and told Veronica she wasn't on the pickup list. Veronica apparently made a huge scene, started yelling about family rights and how dare they keep her from her nephew. She said my aunt was an unfit mother and she was just trying to help. She claimed she had documentation proving she was authorized, waving some papers around that turned out to be printouts of family photos. The daycare called the police, but Veronica left before they arrived. She peeled out of the parking lot so fast she knocked over their sandwich board sign and left tire marks on the asphalt. My aunt had to leave work immediately to get Marky. Her boss was understanding, but you could tell he was getting tired of all the drama. She'd already missed days for the CPS visits and parenting classes. Now this. She started looking over her shoulder everywhere, worried Veronica might try again. She even started taking different routes to daycare, never the same way twice. We had a family meeting at my parents' house that weekend. Everyone came except Veronica, obviously. We sat around the living room eating chips and trying to figure out what to do. My uncle said we should all block her on everything. My cousin said we should fight back, make fake profiles of her. My dad said we needed to stay calm and document everything. The discussion went in circles for hours, with everyone getting more frustrated as the evening wore on. My aunt looked exhausted. She had dark circles under her eyes and kept checking her phone like Veronica might pop out of it. She said her promotion at work was now in jeopardy. Her boss had gotten anonymous emails saying she was an alcoholic who endangered children. The emails included twisted versions of what happened at the birthday party, making it sound like my aunt provided the alcohol and encouraged underage drinking. She had to sit through another meeting with HR, show them the CPS report that cleared her, explain the whole family situation. They believed her, but said they needed to investigate any complaints. The promotion was on hold indefinitely. She'd worked there for 8 years with a perfect record, and now this. The unfairness of it all made her voice crack when she told us. Jake texted me again that night. He had screenshots of Veronica's latest messages. She wasn't claiming pregnancy anymore. Now she was saying he owed her money. Apparently she'd invested in their future by buying clothes for their imaginary baby. She wanted $3,000 or she'd take him to small claims court. She'd even itemized a list. Cribs, strollers, baby clothes, all things she'd never actually bought. He laughed about it, but I could tell he was stressed. He was a teacher and didn't have that kind of money lying around. He also sent me something interesting. Screenshots from when they were dating where Veronica talked about getting revenge on people who wronged her. Stories about coworkers who got fired after she made anonymous complaints. Friends who lost relationships after she spread rumors. She was proud of it. Called it karma with a little help. One message particularly stood out where she bragged about getting a roommate evicted by making noise complaints to the landlord. All because the roommate had eaten her yogurt once. I showed the screenshots to my dad. He added them to his documentation folder, which was getting pretty thick. He'd started using dividers and color-coded tabs to organize everything by date and type of incident. He said we might be able to show a pattern of behavior if we needed to take legal action. But still, none of us wanted to go that route. It felt too extreme for family drama. Then my tires got slashed. I came out of my apartment on a Monday morning to find all 4 tires flat. Not just flat, actually cut. The sidewalls had these clean slices in them. My neighbor said he saw a woman in a hoodie hanging around my car the night before but didn't think anything of it. She'd been there for maybe 10 minutes, he said, walking around the car like she was admiring it. The security camera for the parking lot had conveniently malfunctioned that night. I had to call out of work and pay for a tow truck. 4 new tires cost me almost $600. The tire guy said whoever did it knew what they were doing. The cuts were in just the right spot to make the tires completely unfixable. He'd seen it before in domestic disputes, he said, which made me feel even worse about the situation. I filed a police report but without proof. They couldn't do anything. The officer seemed seemed bored, like this was just another family dispute he didn't want to deal with. He gave me a case number and said to call if anything else happened. He didn't even dust for fingerprints or anything like they do on TV. Something else happened that same week. My cousin Brian got a call from his landlord. Someone had reported him for having too many people living in his apartment, said he was violating his lease by subletting. Brian lived alone with his cat. The landlord had to come inspect, which meant Brian had to take time off work. The whole thing took 3 hours, with the landlord checking closets and looking for signs of extra tenants. Another anonymous complaint that we all knew wasn't really anonymous. The fake social media accounts kept multiplying. New ones popped up faster than we could report them. They started messaging extended family, people who didn't know about the Veronica situation. My great aunt in Florida called my mom confused about why she had messaged her asking for money. The fake account had used recent photos and even mentioned specific details about great aunt's new condo that only family would know. We had to explain the whole thing to relatives who barely used the internet. Grandma's 80th birthday was coming up in 3 weeks. We'd been planning it for months. Rented a church hall, hired a DJ, ordered catering for 75 people, invited relatives from 3 states. It was supposed to be this big celebration of her life. We'd even commissioned a video montage of family photos set to her favorite songs. Then the flowers arrived at Grandma's house. 2 dozen red roses with a card. Can't wait to celebrate with you. Love, Veronica. Grandma called my mom in tears. She didn't want drama at her party. She just wanted to see her family and eat cake in peace. But now she was scared Veronica would show up and ruin everything like she did with Marky's party. The flowers sat on her kitchen table like a threat, beautiful but menacing. We tried to calm Grandma down, told her we'd handle it. But how do you stop someone from showing up to a public event? We couldn't hire security for a grandma's birthday party. That would be insane. My uncle suggested having someone watch the door, but that felt weird too. We were stuck between wanting to protect Grandma's special day and not wanting to turn it into some kind of fortress. I started noticing things going missing from my apartment. Nothing big at first. A phone charger here, a coffee mug there. Stuff I figured I'd just misplaced. But then my laptop charger disappeared. My favorite sweater, half my spoon somehow. It was weird and unsettling. I'd look for something and just know it should be there, but it wasn't. I mentioned it to my mom and she said the same thing was happening at their house. Dad's reading glasses vanished, mom's phone case, random stuff that made no sense to steal. We started wondering if we were all going crazy, misplacing things because of the stress, but the pattern was too consistent across different houses to be coincidence. Then my cousin found her spare key missing from under her doormat. She always kept it there for emergencies. She searched everywhere, but it was just gone. She changed her locks immediately, spending money she didn't really have. The locksmith said it looked like someone had been using the key regularly. The lock showed signs of extra wear. He recommended she upgrade to a deadbolt, which cost even more. That's when I decided to set up a camera in my apartment. Nothing fancy, just a cheap one I got online that connected to my phone. I positioned it carefully to cover my front door and kitchen area without any blind spots. Figured I'd catch myself sleepwalking or something. Prove I was just being paranoid. I wasn't being paranoid. 3 days after setting up the camera, I got a motion alert while I was at work. I opened the app expecting to see my cat. Instead, I saw Veronica. She was in my apartment, going through my kitchen drawers like she owned the place. She pocketed a few forks and moved on to my living room. I watched in shock as she picked up a photo of our family and threw it in her bag. She even helped herself to a soda from my fridge before leaving. I called the police immediately and raced home. By the time I got there, she was gone, but I had the video. Clear as day, Veronica breaking into my apartment. The officer who came this time took it more seriously. He said this was criminal trespassing and theft. Asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes immediately. But here's the messed up part. When they went to question Veronica, she had an alibi. Said she was at a job interview at the exact time of the break-in. Had paperwork to prove it. The officer said the video was helpful, but without more evidence, it would be hard to prosecute. Maybe the person in the video just looked like her? The quality wasn't perfect, he pointed out. Even though I could clearly see it was her. I knew it was her. The way she walked, the purse she carried, even the way she sorted through my stuff with that particular methodical approach she had. But apparently that wasn't enough. The case went nowhere. The officer suggested I change my locks and maybe get better cameras. Thanks for the helpful advice, buddy. We had another family meeting, this time at my aunt's house. She'd installed 3 deadbolts on her door after the daycare incident. The house felt like a fortress. We compared notes on everything that had been happening. The fake accounts, the missing items, the complaints to employers. Dad brought his documentation folder, which was now a full binder with a backup stored in a safety deposit box. That's when we realized the pattern. Veronica knew exactly when we wouldn't be home. She showed up at my apartment when I was at work, went to my parents' house during their weekly grocery trip, hit my cousin's place during her yoga class. She was tracking us somehow. The precision was unsettling. She never guessed wrong about when we'd be out. My tech-savvy cousin figured it out. We all had shared Google calendars from back when we were planning family events. Veronica still had access. She could see every appointment, every work schedule, every out-of-town weekend. We'd been broadcasting our schedules to her for months without realizing it. The calendar even showed locations for some events, making it easier for her to track us. We all immediately removed her access and changed our passwords. But the damage was done. She'd been studying our routines like some kind of stalker. It made my skin crawl thinking about it. How long had she been watching? Planning? We started going through our phones, removing her from everything we could think of. Jake reached out again with more screenshots. Veronica had escalated from asking for $3,000 to threatening to sue him for emotional distress. She claimed their breakup caused her to lose her job and develop anxiety. She wanted $50,000 in damages. The messages were getting longer and more unhinged, with random capitalization and multiple exclamation points. Jake laughed about it but also started looking for a lawyer just in case. He was a teacher, not made of money. This was stressing him out big time. He also told us something disturbing. Veronica had been telling people they were still together. She showed up at his school during lunch, telling the front desk she was his girlfriend bringing him food. Security had to escort her out. She'd created social media posts about their relationship, tagging him in couple photos from months ago like they were recent. Some of his coworkers had started asking if he was okay, noticing the drama surrounding him. The week before Grandma's party, things got worse. My aunt's daycare said they'd been getting hang-up calls all week. Someone kept calling and breathing into the phone before hanging up. They'd upgraded their security procedures and put Veronica's photo at the front desk, but it was affecting their business. Some parents were worried about safety. One family had already switched to a different daycare, citing security concerns. My mom's work got a package addressed to her. Inside were printed screenshots of the fake social media posts, made to look like my mom had written horrible things about her coworkers. There was an anonymous note saying they thought her boss should know what kind of person she really was. Mom had to have another meeting with HR to explain. They believed her, but the stress was getting to her. She started having trouble sleeping, often waking up at 3 a.m. with anxiety. Then came the letters to extended family. Physical letters, mailed with stamps and everything. They contained photos from family events with cruel captions, pictures of relatives with circles around their faces, and comments about their weight, their clothes, their life choices, all written to look like different family members were gossiping about each other. The handwriting was disguised but similar enough to cause doubt. My uncle in California called furious because he got a letter from my dad calling his wife a gold digger. My cousin in Texas got one from my aunt saying her kids were brats. The letters were designed to make everyone fight with everyone else, and it was working. People were hurt and confused. Some relatives believed the letters were real. Old family tensions were being exploited perfectly. We spent hours on the phone doing damage control, explaining the situation to distant relatives who didn't understand why Veronica would do this. Some believed us, others thought we were covering up family drama. My mom cried after talking to her sister, who accused her of always being judgmental. The fake letter had hit on old insecurities from their childhood. It took 3 more calls to convince her sister it was all Veronica's doing. I started checking my mail nervously every day. My neighbors probably thought I was crazy, the way I'd peek out the window when the mail truck came. I installed a lock on my mailbox, which I didn't even know was a thing you could do. The hardware store guy said lots of people were doing it lately because of identity theft. He showed me 3 different models, and I picked the most secure one. The documentation binder turned into 2 binders, then 3. Dad spent his evenings organizing everything chronologically. He created an index and cross-referenced incidents by type. He said if we ever needed to show a pattern of harassment, we'd be ready. But honestly, it felt hopeless. What could we really do? She wasn't physically threatening us, just slowly ruining our lives one anonymous complaint at a time. My work situation got complicated when HR called me in for a meeting. They'd received an email about me supposedly harassing a coworker. The email included screenshots of text messages I'd never sent, saying inappropriate things to a colleague. They were obviously fake. The phone number wasn't even mine, but I still had to sit there and defend myself. Explain the family situation. Show them proof the number wasn't mine. The meeting lasted an hour and felt like an interrogation. My boss believed me but said they had to investigate any complaint. I could see him looking at me differently afterward, like I was drama he didn't want to deal with. I'd worked there for 5 years with 0 issues, and now I was the employee with the crazy family sending fake complaints. I started updating my resume just in case. My productivity dropped because I was constantly worried about what might happen next. 3 days before Grandma's party, we had an emergency family meeting. Everyone was on edge. Half the family was fighting because of the letters. My aunt was exhausted from the CPS stuff still ongoing. My mom was anxious about work. I was paranoid about everything. We needed a plan for the party. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. My uncle suggested hiring security after all. Just one guy to watch the door. But Grandma shut that down immediately. She didn't want her birthday to feel like some kind of military operation. She just wanted a normal party with her family. But we all knew if Veronica showed up, it would be anything but normal. Grandma's voice shook when she talked about it, and that made everyone even more determined to protect her day. We decided on a compromise. We'd have 2 cousins take shifts by the door, just casually hanging out. If Veronica showed up, they'd text the group chat and we'd handle it quietly. We wouldn't make a scene unless she did first. It wasn't a perfect plan, but it was something. We even did a practice run of how we'd escort her out if needed. Jake offered to help. He said he'd park outside and watch for her car. If she showed up, he'd try to talk to her first, maybe convince her to leave before she even got inside. We appreciated the offer, but told him he didn't need to get involved. He insisted, saying he felt responsible for introducing her to our family. The guilt in his voice was obvious. The night before the party, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking my camera app, expecting to see Veronica in my apartment again. I changed the locks, but still felt unsafe. Every noise made me jump. My cat probably thought I'd lost my mind, the way I kept getting up to check the door. I finally gave up on sleep around 4 a.m. and just sat on my couch watching Netflix. I wasn't the only one. The family group chat was active all night with people sharing their anxiety. My cousin couldn't sleep because she kept thinking about the fake social media accounts. My aunt was worried about Marky, who'd been asking if the mean lady would come to Grandma's party. My mom had stress-baked 3 dozen cookies at 2 a.m. We were all a mess. The morning of the party, I woke up to texts from Jake. He'd been getting calls all night from different numbers. Veronica crying, begging, threatening, then crying again. He'd blocked 15 new numbers since midnight. He was still planning to come help watch for her. Said he'd bought a new shirt for the occasion, wanting to look nice for Grandma even if he was just sitting in his car. He seemed determined to make things right somehow. We got to the church hall early to set up. The decorations looked perfect. Gold and white balloons, photos of Grandma through the decades, fresh flowers on every table. The catering smelled amazing. The DJ was setting up music from Grandma's era. Everything was ready for a perfect party. We'd worked so hard to make this special for her. Then we found the gift. It was sitting on the gift table, wrapped in silver paper with a huge red bow. The tag said, "For Grandma, from your loving granddaughter Veronica." My stomach dropped. She'd been here already, or someone had dropped it off for her. Either way, it felt like a bomb sitting there among the normal presents. My dad carefully picked it up and shook it. Nothing rattled. It wasn't heavy. Could have been clothes or something harmless. But we all knew Veronica didn't do harmless anymore. My uncle said we should just throw it away. My aunt said we should open it first, make sure it wasn't something that would upset Grandma. We stood there arguing in whispers while the DJ tested his speakers. Finally, my cousin Julie just grabbed it and tore it open. Inside was a photo album. At first it looked sweet, pictures of Grandma with all of us through the years. Then we flipped through it. Every photo had something wrong with it. Faces were scratched out with red marker. Mean comments were written under each one. Grandma with her disappointing family, under a Christmas photo. The people who never appreciated her, under a birthday picture. It was psycho stuff. We threw it in the dumpster outside and agreed not to tell Grandma. But now we were all on edge. If Veronica had already been here, would she come back? My cousins took their positions by the door early. Jake texted that he was in the parking lot watching. We were as ready as we could be. Guests started arriving around 2 p.m. Grandma looked beautiful in her purple dress, the one she'd bought special for today. She was so happy, hugging everyone, tearing up at the decorations. For a while, it felt like a normal family party. Kids ran around playing tag. Adults caught up over coffee. The DJ played all Grandma's favorites. I started to relax a little. Then my cousin at the door texted the group chat. "She's here." My heart started pounding. I looked toward the entrance and saw Veronica walking in like she owned the place. She was dressed up, carrying a gift bag, smiling Smiling at relatives who didn't know about all the drama, some of them smiled back and hugged her. They had no idea what she'd been doing to us for months. Jake appeared out of nowhere, intercepting her near the dessert table. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see her face getting angry. She kept trying to walk around him and he kept stepping in her way. Not aggressive, just persistent, like a basketball player playing defense. More relatives started noticing something was wrong. My dad and uncle moved in to help. They surrounded her casually, making it look like a normal conversation. But Veronica's voice started rising. I have every right to be here. She's my grandmother too. People were starting to stare. Kids stopped playing to watch. This was exactly what we didn't want. Grandma noticed the commotion from across the room. Her face fell when she saw Veronica. The happiness just drained out of her expression. She started walking over, probably to try to keep the peace. My mom tried to distract her with cake, but Grandma wasn't having it. Veronica, Grandma said when she reached the group, I think you should leave. The room went quiet. Even the kids sensed something big was happening. Veronica's face went red. Grandma, I just wanted to celebrate with you. I brought you a gift and everything. She held up the gift bag like it was proof she belonged there. After everything you've done to this family, please leave. Grandma's voice was firm but sad. You could tell this was breaking her heart. She hated conflict, especially at her own party. Veronica laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Everything I've done, they're the ones who turned you against me. I'm just honest and they can't handle it. She was getting louder with each word. Some relatives started moving kids away from the scene. You called CPS on your own family, Grandma said quietly. You've been harassing everyone for months. That's not honesty. That's cruelty. The mask finally slipped. Veronica's face twisted into something ugly. Fine. You want to know the truth? You've always loved them more than me. Every single family event, it's about everyone else. Poor little Marky and his stupid birthday. Julie and her college graduation. But when I accomplished something, nothing. She started pulling papers out of her purse, waving them around. I documented everything. Every time you forgot my birthday. Every time you praised them instead of me. I have proof of the favoritism. The papers were flying everywhere. Some looked like printed text messages. Others were photos with crazy annotations. Jake stepped forward and started gathering the papers. Veronica, stop. This isn't helping anything. She whirled on him, eyes wild. You were supposed to be on my side. But no, you fell for their act too. Poor innocent family being terrorized by mean Veronica. My aunt spoke up. You tried to kidnap my son from daycare. Her voice was shaking with anger. You've been breaking into our homes. You got me investigated by CPS. You nearly cost me my job. That's not about favoritism. That's about you being dangerous. Veronica laughed again. Dangerous? I'm just showing you all what it feels like to have your life disrupted, to have people judge you unfairly, to lose things that matter to you. She looked around the room at all the staring faces. Every single one of you has said things about me behind my back. I know because I've heard you. Well, now you know how it feels to have people talk about you. We need to call the police, someone whispered, but Grandma held up her hand. Veronica, I'm giving you one chance. Leave now, peacefully. Get help, real help, or we will involve the authorities. Her voice was steady, but tears were rolling down her cheeks. For a second, I thought Veronica might actually leave. She looked around at all of us, maybe finally seeing how far she'd pushed things. Then her eyes landed on the birthday cake. 3 tiers, decorated with purple flowers. Happy 80th birthday, written in gold frosting. Before anyone could stop her, she lunged for it. My cousin Brian was closest. He grabbed her arm just as her hand touched the cake. They struggled for a second. Veronica screaming about unfairness and lies. The cake wobbled dangerously. Other relatives jumped in to help. It took 4 people to pull her away from the dessert table. She was still screaming, mascara running down her face. That's when Jake pulled out his phone. I'm calling 911. This has gone too far. Veronica heard him and something in her snapped completely. She broke free from the relatives holding her and ran for the exit, knocking over a flower arrangement on her way out. We heard her car peel out of the parking lot, tires squealing. The room was silent for about 10 seconds. Then Grandma started crying. Not quiet tears like before, but real sobbing. My mom and aunts surrounded her, leading her to a chair. The party was officially ruined. Kids were crying because Grandma was crying. Adults stood around looking shell-shocked. But then something amazing happened. My uncle stood up and clinked his fork against a glass. Hey everyone, I know that was intense, but we're here for Grandma's 80th birthday. Veronica doesn't get to ruin that. He walked over to the DJ booth and whispered something. Music started playing. Can't Help Myself by the Four Tops, Grandma's favorite song. My dad joined in. Come on, Ma, dance with me. He held out his hand to Grandma. She shook her head at first, still crying, but he persisted, doing a goofy dance move that made her laugh through the tears. She finally took his hand and let him lead her to the dance floor. One by one, other people joined in. The little kids started running around again. Someone fixed the knocked over flowers. My aunt cut the cake, which had survived the attack. Within 20 minutes, it almost felt like a normal party again. Almost. Jake found me by the punch bowl. I'm really sorry about all this. I feel responsible. I told him to stop apologizing. None of us blamed him. He said he'd been recording Veronica's meltdown on his phone, in case we needed it for legal stuff. Smart thinking. He also said he was going to file for a restraining order first thing Monday morning. The party wound down around 6 p.m. Grandma hugged everyone extra long, thanking them for staying despite the drama. She seemed okay, but tired. The kind of tired that comes from emotional exhaustion, not physical activity. We packed up her gifts and leftover cake. Nobody mentioned the scene with Veronica, but it hung in the air like smoke. As we were cleaning up, my cousin found something weird. A small device stuck under one of the tables. It looked like a tiny recorder or maybe a GPS tracker. We had no idea how long it had been there, but it explained how Veronica always seemed to know our exact locations during events, even after we'd removed her calendar access. She'd been using actual spy equipment to supplement her digital tracking. We gave it to Jake to include with his restraining order evidence. That night, the family group chat was busy again, but this time it wasn't anxiety. It was people sharing nice memories from the party. Photos of Grandma dancing, videos of the kids playing. We were trying to focus on the good parts. My mom suggested we all write Grandma cards telling her what she meant to us, to make up for the drama. Everyone agreed immediately. Monday morning came with news. Veronica had been arrested. Not for the party incident, but for something else. Remember those fake social media accounts? Turns out she'd used one to threaten a local politician who'd blocked her on Twitter. The FBI takes that stuff seriously. They'd been investigating for weeks and finally had enough evidence. The party meltdown was just bad timing for her. Jake forwarded us the news article. Veronica was facing federal charges for online harassment and making threats. The investigation had uncovered dozens of fake accounts, not just the ones targeting us. She'd been doing this to former coworkers, old classmates, even random people who annoyed her online. We were just her biggest targets. The FBI found evidence on her computer of years of this behavior. My aunt's CPS case was immediately closed when they found out about the arrest. The investigator actually apologized, saying they had to follow up on all reports, but understood now it was malicious. Marky could finally stop worrying about the mean lady. He asked if she was going to jail, and my aunt said yes, probably for a while. Over the next few weeks, life slowly returned to normal. My mom's work stopped getting complaints. The fake social media accounts went dormant. We could check our mail without anxiety. I even stopped obsessively checking my apartment camera. It was weird how quiet everything became after months of chaos. Jake started dating my friend from work, Emma. They met when he came to pick me up for lunch one day. She thought he was cute, and I figured why not introduce them. They hit it off immediately. He was nothing like we expected when we first heard Veronica had a boyfriend. Turned out he was just a nice guy who'd gotten mixed up with the wrong person. We found out more about Veronica's arrest from the prosecutor. She was looking at serious time. The FBI had found hundreds of victims across multiple states. She'd been running this harassment campaign for years, long before she targeted us. We were actually lucky. Some people had lost jobs, relationships, even custody of their kids because of her fake reports. The prosecutor said our documentation would be helpful for the case. Grandma decided to write Veronica a letter. We tried to talk her out of it, but she insisted. She said Veronica was still family, even after everything. The letter was short. Just said she loved her and hoped she'd get help in prison. That maybe this was rock bottom and she could build herself back up. Classic grandma, always seeing the best in people. Veronica never wrote back. We heard from her court-appointed lawyer that she was taking a plea deal, 5 to 7 years in federal prison. She'd have to pay restitution to her victims too. The lawyer asked if we wanted to make victim impact statements. Some of us did, some didn't. I wrote one about the fear of never feeling safe in my own home. My aunt wrote about how it affected Marky. The sentencing was on a Tuesday. Only Jake went to court. He said Veronica looked different, smaller somehow. She didn't make eye contact with him. When the judge read the sentence, she just nodded. No dramatic outburst. No claims of being misunderstood. Just acceptance. Jake said it was actually sad to watch. We had another family party for Thanksgiving. Nobody mentioned Veronica, but her absence was felt. Grandma had set a place for her out of habit, then quietly removed it before dinner. Marky was back to his happy self, playing with his cousins and eating too much pie. My aunt had gotten her promotion after all. Mom's work drama was forgotten. Even the extended family members who'd gotten the nasty letters were there, all fences mended. Jake and Emma came together, officially a couple. He fit in perfectly, helping in the kitchen and playing board games with the kids. Someone joked that he was the best thing to come out of the Veronica situation. He laughed and said he was just glad to be part of a normal family now. We all knew what he meant. I still have the camera in my apartment, but I rarely check it anymore. The locks have been changed twice just to be safe. Sometimes I think about how one person caused so much chaos, how we all spent months looking over our shoulders, suspicious of everything, but mostly I'm just grateful it's over, that we survived it as a family. We don't talk about Veronica much now. Sometimes her name comes up and there's an awkward pause before someone changes the subject. Grandma still has photos of her in old albums, but nobody suggests taking them out. She was part of our history, even if it's a part we'd rather forget. The family is closer now though. Nothing like shared trauma to bring people together. Last week was Marky's 7th birthday. Same party place, same dinosaur theme because he's obsessed. But this time there was no drama, no uninvited guests, no tears except happy ones when he opened his presents. My aunt made the cake herself this time. A T-Rex with chocolate frosting. It was lopsided and the frosting was uneven, but Marky said it was perfect. And it was. That's really all there is to tell. Veronica is serving her time. We've moved on with our lives. The restraining order is still active, but we don't need it from prison. Jake and Emma are talking about moving in together. Grandma made it to 81 and we're already planning her next party. Life is good. Boring even. And after everything we went through, boring is exactly what we wanted. Sometimes I wonder if Veronica thinks about us in prison, if she regrets everything or still thinks she was justified. But then I realize it doesn't matter. She made her choices and faced the consequences. We protected our family and came out stronger. That's what matters. That and making sure Marky never has another birthday ruined by someone who claims to just be honest. The last update from the prosecutor said Veronica was in therapy in prison. Maybe she'll actually change. Maybe she'll come out a different person. Or maybe not. Either way, she won't be our problem anymore. We've got birthdays to celebrate and memories to make. Good ones this time. The kind where everyone leaves happy and nobody calls CPS. That's all any family really wants, right?